Hi, everyone. It's Hillary. I have my dear friend Megan here with me today to talk to us about copywriting. So, Megan is the CEO of Alpenglow, and she's going to tell us what is copywriting, why do we need it, how do we use it, etc. Hey, Megan, thanks for joining today.
Hey, good morning. I guess it's afternoon-ish over where you are, but
I
it's
know.
still
So,
morning here.
Megan's on the Pacific time as opposed to us Easterners over here.
Yeah, over in Oregon.
Tell us what is copywriting? Because when I was first introduced to the concept, I was like, what? Like, why have I not heard of this? And I felt like kind of like old because I was like, what? So please
Yeah,
tell us so
I
everybody
actually
can.
get that from a lot of people. Everyone's like, "Wait, the little like R that's next to words, like what is that?" It's actually been around forever. It's an advertising word. So copywriting, RIGHT, is like the little R with the circle that you see next to things that have been copyrighted. It's a legal term.
Okay.
Copywriting is RITE, like writing. And so copywriting is the writing of words for business. So copy is actually any word that a business uses to get someone to do something, whether it's buy a product, click a button on a website, give you their email, download something, whatever it is that you are trying to persuade somebody to do, the words that you do that's copywriting. So a lot of people confuse it with content writing,
Okay.
which is a pretty big distinction. Content is anything that informs. So, like a long form blog, like a pamphlet, something that it's really just its job is to create awareness about who you are, to inform, to entertain. It's not really asking anything of the reader other than to just read it and be educated on something or entertained by
Okay.
something. It doesn't actually cause the reader to move them to do something. So it's kind of like persuasive advertising, I guess.
I like
So
it.
back in like the Mad Men days, the advertisers that would write magazine advertisements or newspaper advertisements, those were copywriters.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense now. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah. Everyone
Um,
gets confused.
Yeah. So I recently hired Megan this year to do some copy for me for a magazine that I was in and for my website. So Megan, what other types of things do you work on in or small businesses like mine and those listening, like what could we use or do we need copywriting for? Because I think sometimes we just don't know what we need. And then when I was introduced to what you could do and I saw it, I was like, oh, I did need that in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, so kind of my background is I guess I am still a chiropractor. Um, but I realized that I really, really love the sales and advertising and marketing side of being a business owner, whereas I'm not in love with the actual service I provided. And that for me is a whole different story for a whole different day. But a lot of service providers are the opposite, right? Like you have such a great service that you provide, you're changing the world with your service. And when it comes to actually doing the sales and marketing end of things and really conveying your message to your ideal client and your target market, um, a lot of service providers get really stuck, or the message that they're conveying isn't getting across the message that they want to convey, mainly
Mhm.
because they just don't know how to do it strategically or how to do it in a way that really gets to kind of the emotional needs of your ideal client. We tend to, as service providers, we tend to kind of word vomit about everything that we do and put it all out there. And there's a way to do it that is strategic and that can really hone in on the person that you're trying to reach. Because when it comes to business, it's all about finding the right person at the right time with the right message. And that's what gets people in your doors. So when it comes to copywriting, knowing that you need a copywriter, really anything that has words, you need a copywriter for. So there's copywriters that focus on like one specific thing. There's copywriters that have like a menu of things. Um, I'm still newer in this business, which I love. I started earlier this year and have absolutely exploded my business, which has been great. Um, So I focus on mainly website copy, and I don't design the website. So that's a lot of where a lot of misconception is as well. When someone works with a website designer, a lot of times they think that the designer is going to be writing the copy for you. And then I had this experience as well when I first started my business. I was like, oh, the designer does all the words. And then they designed my website and it was all in Latin. And they're like, oh, no, you have to write the words. And I was like, I don't I don't know what to write. And so I had to really teach myself how to do all of this. And that's kind of how I got into it because I realized, oh, I'm actually really good at this stuff. So I do website copy. I do email campaigns for a bunch of people now, which is great. So any sort of onboarding campaign or landing sequence or sales sequence, all with email. There's a whole world in that realm that I do. And then I also started doing some articles. I've done a magazine ad for you. So really anything that needs words, I can do it. I don't do social media. That's one thing that I do not do. Social media can kind of ride the line between content and copy. You want it to be informative, you want it to create awareness, but then you also want people to stay on your page or click over to your website or whatever it is that you want them to do on social media. But it's such a big bucket of things that it's just not something that really moves me. So that would be more of a social media specific person.
Okay.
But when it comes to email, website, articles, that kind of thing, I'm your girl.
Yeah. And I can tell when people have handwritten their own websites versus professionally done, because I'll be like, man, they had a great website, right?
Yeah.
And then I see when they just type things in like placeholders, and I'm like, it doesn't really move you to go to them. Like I've looked up different, even service providers in the area that maybe I want to go to. And I'm like, they couldn't even put effort into their website, yet I want to trust them to cut my hair. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people, stick with like generic buzzwordy type things. And I am really specialized in kind of really getting to the heart of your story, who you are, what you offer, and really speaking to your ideal client. A lot of people want a website that kind of casts a wide net. And I am of the kind of persuasion that you don't want to cast a wide net. You want to really focus and narrow in on who you're trying to reach. So you may have a lot of traffic coming to your website, but you want to have, once the traffic gets there, you want to really have a strong message of who you are, what you offer, what your mission and vision is. And that is what can really pick out the people that are coming to the site to really tell them like, this is for me or this is not for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the niching it down, and you have a better chance of landing them as a client or a patient or whatever than if you have the wide net. And it seems like a lot of the business books are teaching that, but there's still some people stuck in the wide net.
Yeah, I think, marketing is always evolving and sales are always evolving, but it's also cyclical. So older things come back around. We're seeing that a lot now with marketing and sales, like just these kind of techniques that worked in the 50s and 60s that are kind of rolling back around. So it's all cyclical. So we can definitely learn from the past, but adapt it to where we are now.
And, jumping off of what you said, like postcard and like actual snail mail marketing, that would be great to hire you for, because that's their chance to get in front of them and say the right words to these people. Like if they're targeting like a more influential neighborhood, there's certain lingo that you would want to say and you would not want to say. And so like if you were writing it for them for their postcard or letter or ad or whatever, like knowing who's going to see it plays a big factor, don't you think?
Yeah, knowing who's going to see it and what message how they want to hear the message. So tone is a huge thing as well that not a lot of people think about when they're writing, but everybody talks with a certain tone, writes in a certain tone, and wants to create a certain tone for their office. So especially if you aren't the same as your ideal client, if are trying to create an office that is speaking to entrepreneurial moms and you're a 50-year-old man, like you're not the same as your ideal client. So you need to use words and tone that really speaks to them. You wouldn't speak to them like you're speaking to a golf dad, and so that is something that's really important to think about in your writing and in your marketing. And I often always tell people too, when they're kind of asking for the difference between the two, copy kind of belongs to your sales team. It's the words that you're using to persuade and move people. And content really belongs to your marketing team. So when the two work together, you're creating that awareness about who you are, what you offer to the world with your content, and then you're really moving people towards you with your copy. So the two really worked well together.
That's a really good analogy about the difference of sales and marketing in general, because a lot of people think it's one, and it's like, no, one's moving you to drive and buy something. The other one's informing you of this business or person, right?
Yeah. And they really have to work hand in hand. So, and you can't do it all. As much as we service providers and entrepreneurs try to think that we can be the head of marketing, the head of sales, the CEO, all the C's. We can't do it all.
What is that? How we get burned out so easily, Megan? That's crazy.
It happened to me.
Whatever do you mean?
Oh man,
we can't do it all.
I know we can't.
Yeah. Well, tell us how someone can get in touch with you, and how open you are to accepting new clients since you're newer. I love your turnaround. I don't know if it's just because we're friends, but your turnaround time for me was fabulous because
it's pretty quick, but it's getting slower because
sometimes you just want it. And I'm like, oh, how long is that going to take? And then it's like the next time, like, yes.
Yeah. Smaller things definitely are faster turnaround. And it's easier too, because I know you, but it just depends on the project and what the turnaround's looking like. For websites, it's usually like 2 to 3 weeks right now. And for other things, it just kind of depends. But to get a hold of me, email's the best way. I can put the email in the chat, or I can just tell you here. It's megan@alpenglowcopyco.com. So I'll put it in the chat right now. Also, I'm on Facebook. You can find me, just Megan Banker is my name there. You can send me a message. I'm still working on my website, which is kind of funny. I was talking to my friend that I partner with who does web design. So if you need a full suite of web design, copywriting, and branding, I have my 2 girlfriends and we formed a collective together. And that's been really cool because it puts all of us in the same house. So you're not having to find someone to do a logo and then find somebody else to do a website and then find somebody else to do copy. We all talk to each other. We all offer kind of one big package together. And so, we all still don't have websites because we've been so busy. So it's a good problem to have. I'm not complaining about it, but email is probably the best way. And then you can also reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'll put all that in the chat right now.
Yep. And I'll post it underneath it too, just so we have it all.
I will have a website built out one day.
That's wonderful. Is there any specific projects that people have been asking you to do lately besides website? Like, have you been doing a lot of newsletters or email sequences?
I have been doing a lot of email sequences. I think I have maybe 3 clients that I do email sequences for right now, which doesn't sound like a lot, but each of them needs, 2 to 5 emails a week. For just regular nurturing emails. And then I also, for one of those clients, I've done they did an online challenge. So I did all of the emails leading up to the challenge. I'll do all the emails leading out of the challenge. And then for another client who runs a pediatric chiropractic clinic, I'm doing all of her. She also has some programs that she offers to other doctors. And so I'm doing all of her email sequences, as far as onboarding sequences, nurturing sequences, all those fun buzzwords when it comes to email marketing.
A whole nother topic itself, because when I talk to people about that in clients, and they're like, oh, I don't do onboarding email sequences and nurturing sequences, only when I remember to. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And those can be really like set it and forget it kinds of things, when you're doing it only when you remember to. That's another thing you have to add to your to-do list. But if you can have somebody, I had a client earlier this year. She hired me to do 52 emails, which is one email a week.
Yeah.
And we, talked about, we left some wiggle room. So I actually do them every quarter so that we can change them if we need to. But I mean, how nice is it to just be like, these are my emails for the entire year, put it into your MailChimp, your Activate, whatever it is. I don't do the logistics of it. That's on you. I just give you all the words and you just plug it in, set it and forget it. That's so much easier than like, oh, I need to email the 5 new patients I had yesterday to be like, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
That's something that can be automated. That's easy to go. As a single chiropractic office owner, that to me was the biggest game changer, was just having that set, because people don't know that it's automatic, or even if they do, they still like getting it. And it's the same with like what you're talking about with postcards and, letters. Like, people know that it's an advertisement, but you can make it feel less advertising, and people still love getting physical mail. They really do. So, physical mail, email, those are still huge drivers, and people like to say that they're not, but they really are. I think I read a stat the other day that like 86% of millennials still prefer email as like the way to talk to them. And millennials are the big buying power right now. So, yeah,
well,
email
I think
and direct mail.
This is like a great example of like something that's on a lot of people's to-do list. And now's the time to hire that out and actually utilize your time for what maybe you're best at. If you're thinking like, I hate writing emails, I hate doing this and that, you don't have to. Just hire Megan to do it,
really
and then it'll be done. You don't have to think about it.
You don't have to sit and stare at the cursor just blinking at you in the middle of the night, wishing for the words to come.
Yeah, I agree.
I have the words.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking your time in with our 3-hour time zone difference.
Yeah,
you're a good friend to get up for me and do this. I appreciate it.
Thanks for giving me a reason to get up today. Sometimes I need it.
I know. Bye.
All right. Bye. Thanks.